Ziggy, thank you for talking to the week. Can you tell me how big is the MAX operation in Sri Lanka compared to other countries globally?
I mean, I think Sri Lanka used to be one of the bigger country operations. Now, obviously, there are a couple of countries like Iraq, Ukraine that have actually dominated the landscape more, but it's still one of the larger operations. In the region, I think we're number three after Laos and Vietnam. These are much bigger programs, but generally we're on the kind of higher side. So we've got about 6 or 7 donors. Many other operations have 1 or 2. So we have the Japanese, the Australians, the Americans, the Swiss. So there's quite a good broad spread of donors as well.
Can you explain your strength, like workforce number and how many teams you have on the road? Is the areas that you cover?
Yeah, so we have around 725 to 730 staff altogether, and about 24% of those are women. We're working in the north central and east side of the country. So MAG has the largest footprint in terms of the demining because we are also covering the east. Most of the 4 operators, excuse me, like Dash, Halo and Sharp, we're all mainly based in the north, but then MAG also covers the east by ourselves. So we've got a very big footprint and quite a large staff spread about quite a lot.
Worldwide, major humanitarian funding is diverted towards active conflicts. Could you tell us about the donor scenario for the MAG in Sri Lanka?
I mean, it's the donors in Sri Lanka are very committed to demining generally. So even though the funding might go down, we're still confident that many of them want to stay till the end. You know, they've been funding some of them since 2002, 2003. And even though the funding might be decreasing, there is a commitment to supporting Sri Lanka with demining until the end. But certainly with all of these new priorities and stuff, we've seen a lot of our donors reduce the amounts of funds. There's also a perception maybe that Sri Lanka's not so much of a priority. It's actually doing okay. There's no conflict. There's no political sort of unrest. So sometimes they might not see it as a priority country. But certainly I think that the donors who are funding demining are very committed to that. So they will most probably stay on, but the amounts will go down. You see, like someone like the UK, for example, a lot of the money that the UK would spend on supporting refugees and internally displaced people in other countries, now they want to use that money to house refugees in the UK. So it's not just that it's going to defense and these other type of things. It's just a redirecting of their priorities, and that can also affect, obviously, the funding for us here.
Sri Lanka has set a goal to be a mine-free country by 2028. How realistic is the target?
Yeah, no, it's not. And even the Sri Lankan government is aware. They're going to apply for an extension to this anti-personnel mine ban convention, Article 5, where they are allowed to increase the timeline for the completion. We think maybe another 6 or 7 years, as long as the funding stays stable and as long as we don't find new contaminated areas. So given these 2 situations, then we feel we might complete by 2030, 2031. But if we're still continuing to find new areas, which we are, and the funding is decreasing, so our number of teams on the ground are less, then obviously it's hard to predict when it will finish. So, I mean, just to give you an example, at the end of 2023, we had 45 teams. Today we have 30. So in the course of 18 months, we've reduced 30%. Now, if we're taking that kind of hit for the next 2 or 3 years, then it's going to be very hard to predict.
So, who are your D-miners? What will happen to them post mine clearance issue?
So the D-miners are mainly local people. So more than 95% are locally recruited from the north and the east. Many of them you will have found are survivors of the conflict or ex-combatants. Even ones who are working with us who are maybe 30 today. The war only finished 15 years ago. No? So many of them you'll talk to, you'll find they were living in IDP camps, these internally displaced persons camps. One of them was telling me he'd moved 6 times as a young child before his family settled down in Batticaloa or whatever. So everyone has their story linked to the conflict. And these are, so most of them, and one of the main things about MAG is we recruit people locally so they can also solve their own problem. It's not just us coming and doing demining. There are people from the local community who were involved in the war, affected by the war, who are now finding the solution. So for us, that's very important. Many of them are ex-combatants with LTT. We've even got ex-army people working with us. And we find that now the relationship between them is more cordial, it's better. Obviously, as time goes on, people get over some of the harshness of the conflict. And we find they're all working together. What is a little bit concerning for us, obviously, is what happens to these staff after demining. Either after the demining is finished, or if, for example, the funding finishes and you have to make some of your staff redundant. What happens to those people? Because we have provided alternative livelihoods for many years. We provided salaries for demining. But now if we can't anymore, there's almost 2,500 deminers. So all of the operators are working on a training program that will enable deminers to gain more skills and sort of certifications so that when they go out into the world after they finish the demining, they might be able to find jobs more easily. They might be able to manage their livelihoods more easily.
What kind of coordination you have with Sri Lankan government, and what kind of further cooperation or concessions you are looking for in the future?
So I mean, very good cooperation. We come under the supervision of National Mine Action Centre. So our relationship is very good. We have a memorandum of understanding which we sign each year. There's a key amount of requisites, etc. We're also registered under the NGO Secretariat. So that is a different route in terms of compliance for us. But our relationship with the National Mine Action Centre and the Regional Mine Action Office is very good.
So, what are the coordination with the other departments? Do you do it, or NMAC does it for you? Are you looking for any new concession for bringing from the government or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, we do, because we anyway have to work quite a lot with Department of Finance and all of these. So at the moment, one of the key things is tax exemption, import duty exemptions. That we have a very old vehicle fleet. We're also paying a fortune for rental vehicles, which are not very good quality anymore because they're old. So we've been in discussions with the National Mine Action Centre to try and get exemptions. The idea being that we will import new vehicles, which currently the import duty is 300%. So, I mean, it's impossible. So we were saying we'll bring them in, we'll use them as ambulances, and then in 5 or 6 years when we finish, we'll donate them to the Ministry of Public Health. So if the government is willing to do that and Ministry of Public Health is willing to receive it, then maybe they can consider giving us exemptions. So we also work with, obviously, Ministry of Urban Development, and construction and housing quite closely to see how many people are being resettled onto land that's been released. We're planning to work with Ministry of Education who support all the staff training that we're doing. We do a number of courses at the university. We have agreements with Eastern University. So like that, we work with different departments.
What are the advantages to a country if they join Mind Ban Treaty in terms of financial assistance? Is there something?
I mean, not really. What it does do is for the other state parties who are interested, who are either signatories themselves or actively promoting, they are encouraged to support. So they will be encouraged to support Sri Lanka in achieving its objectives. But as far as I'm aware, the convention itself doesn't give you rights to a certain type of assistance. It directs state parties to support, but it doesn't immediately trigger like X amount in revenue or anything like that.
What are the practices and corporate policies that are unique to MAC compared to other minor action partners in Sri Lanka?
So I think one of the corporate policies is the staff transition, the exit strategy, that we've really focused on what will happen to these deminers after finishing work, whether they leave of their own accord or they have to leave because the demining is finished. So this is something that is a MAG-driven kind of policy to make sure that we are looking after the duty of care that we have towards the deminers. And many times donors are asking us for exit strategy. What's your exit strategy? So this is one of the key things. Then there's also the, if I'm saying it correctly, equality, diversity, inclusivity. So this is a lot around our work to do with women, for example. We try to encourage women not just to apply for jobs and stay in the workforce, but also to meet the special needs they might have to be able to carry on working with us. All of these kind of things. We have some environment work also that's unique to MAG also.
What are the operational challenges your teams are facing in the field, be it environmental or logistics?
I mean, there are a lot of operations. The first thing is you see the size that MAG is working in. So that is one of the most urgent operational challenges is the scale that they're working. So from the northernmost point to the southernmost point, we've got to move people right through across that area. So that is a major challenge. The fact that, as I mentioned, the equipment, the vehicles are all getting quite old. That's become a major challenge for us. Now, very often when we're discussing with our donors and get grant agreement, they'll give you a lump sum and you decide what to do. But now, because the funding is reducing, we want to keep teams on the ground. So we're not necessarily investing so much in equipment. We're trying to keep teams on the ground, and that means your equipment is getting old, taking time. The other operational challenge is that we're also finding new areas all the time. So now we're going out, we're being able to cancel some areas because we're doing resurveys, but then it means we're also adding new areas. So MAG has something like 8.5 square kilometers is allocated to us to clear, which is quite a big amount as well. So these are some of the operational.
Do you think falling number of minor accidents, be it civilians or the deminers in Sri Lanka, because of the training and the risk education in the contaminated area?
I mean, I think yes. The training, obviously, the risk education. But I think what's happened is if you go up to the north, you see how visible we are. Everybody knows there are mines there. So already you have that awareness. If you come to the south of Sri Lanka, people don't even know there are mines in the country, let alone. So I think that general awareness, obviously the training and the us being around in the area, we talk a lot to the communities, explaining to them all our signage, what it all means. So people have slowly over the years understood much more the demonstrations of what mines look like, all of that kind of thing. And even now we're still looking at more digital risk education, maybe using SMS, photographs, all of these sorts of things to be able to keep it on the agenda. So I think it's a combination of the education and training itself, but also just the general awareness of the public in that part of the country.
How does Mind Free Sri Lanka will benefit apart from fulfilling the Mind Ban Treaty commitment?
So obviously you have a huge amount of people who are able to return. Already NMAC is saying that 918,000 people, that's nearly a million people, have been able to resettle on land. You've got obviously all the agricultural benefits. A lot of our land is agricultural land. So people are able to go farm. This is very important now because the lack of jobs in the north, because of the economic crisis, normally when people are finished demining, they can go and get another job. But there are no jobs. So they will have to go back to their land, be able to farm that. So it's really important that's clear. Then obviously people having access to schools, clinics, hospitals. Before that access was blocked, they weren't able to do. Access to national parks, again, there were huge areas of land which no one went into because they might be mined. Now we can open up the national parks as well once that's been cleared. And then all these tourist sites, pilgrimage sites. You take Anuradhapura, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. That district will be cleared very soon. So that means that, you know, it can be open. You don't have to worry that tourists might run into something or pilgrims might have accident or things like that. So there's many sort of reasons apart from the Mine Ban Treaty which benefit Sri Lanka, and tourism is huge. So you think you come in tourist season here and you see how overcrowded the south and the west of the country are. But the whole of the rest of the country has as beautiful beaches, forest areas, national parks. So really the idea is to be able to extend the kind of land that people can go to as tourists. Start developing Trincomalee, Batikaloa as major tourist destinations. And if you don't have mines there, then obviously that's something that can go ahead much more. I think that is some of the advantages.